space to ground are we on?
It will be space to ground 2, yeah. Up and down on space to ground 2. Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston Station, we're as ready as can be for the event.
European Space Agency, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Voice check, vérifie la connexion est bonne. Hello, Thomas, this is Toulouse. Can you hear us?
I can hear you 5 by 5. How can you hear me?
Bonjour Thomas.
Hello, Thomas. Hello, Thomas. Hello, Pesquet. I hope you're well. Yeah, very well, thank you. Well, listen, we're very happy that you're with us this afternoon in the name of all the students who are here with the Space City and all of France and who will ask you questions. But in this connection I have right next to you, an older student whom you know well because you personally know you studied together. He was also, you've known him professional because he is in charge of all of the experiments, French experiments on the mission, and who has just presented to us Mr. Remy Conton. Hello, Thomas. How are you doing? Glad to see you. Hello to everyone. We're going to begin right away with the questions. We'll start with Henrik. First question, Henrik.
Hello, Thomas.
Hello, Thomas. Is he?
Okay, keep you informed. Je suis un élève en terminale au lycée Rive Gauche à Toulouse.
I'm at the Rive Gauche in Toulouse, last year student. This is the third time that I'm meeting you this way. And I also see where you've posted a lot of photographs during the night. And the question I have is the following. Have you noticed the evolution of pollution since you've been up there, started your mission? Well, this is a good question. It's something that, in terms of scientific work, I think I've seen something, but it really requires observations over a period of years. Listen, evolution of pollution, I think, is, the United States is very luminous or lit up. It's hard to say between 2017, but in any case, what is certain is that with all of the lights that we have, it's sort of hard to see that at night. Hello, Thomas. I am Marie. I am on second year in the Repère School in Toulouse, and with thousands of students in France. Can you tell us about your experiments or your experiences as an astronaut? What advice would you have? What advice could you give us? Well, the advice is, it's already happened to me during the first mission. I had some experiments that didn't go very well. But as I mentioned before to the students, regarding a project of this nature, it's important. You have to be very rigorous and disciplined in your studies, and you have to really prepare yourself to conclude all of the work that you need to do in a scientific sense, especially. And this is what's most important, to prepare yourself for space. Hello, My name is Leanne, and I'm in the third school at the Louis Pasteur High School in Trio. Can different plants grow in the space station? I'd like to know, we're asking this so that we can know about diversity in space. Well, that's a good question. You can, in fact, grow plants within the ESS, but they grow better in the natural environment. And so what you do on land, you have earth and all of the elements for growing plants. And so it's difficult to do so here in space. We don't have the solar light, we have artificial light. And so this complicates things compared to land, the Earth. What we would like to see today in the space station is that we don't have any other choice. However, we will be required to grow plants within our space stations. It's something that we're not doing currently in the space station. Hello, Thomas. This is Suzette. In the first year of high school, you've spoken to us about your work on the Amazonian forest. Listen, this is a region in which there's a lot of rain. It's a very green forest. Often it's covered by clouds, hard to observe sometimes. There's certain places where we can see that where the forest has been cleared away, and people are out there creating fields, and sometimes deforestation is very obvious from up here. But now we see that there's very major deforestation programs. It looks as if it was cut through the forest with a razor, which is, we can conclude about that the removal of the forest, which is very important for us, for the green lung of the planet. Hello, Thomas. Hello, everybody. I'm Marie. And at the Marie Curie High School, here's my question. Do you do recycling aboard the ESS, and how do you do it? Yes, we recycle, evidently. We have an enclosed environment. Aboard the ESS, you have to be able to eat and to drink and to have usable water. And so we try to get the maximum use of everything that's aboard. So we collect everything, whether it's toilet water, we treat it, we re-inject it into and convert it into potable water, drinkable water. And so at 80% purification, increasingly we try to recycle what we brought along with us. In space, things are wrapped up in wrapping to protect it when you bring it to space. That includes food and other items. And so we try to, we don't want to have useless wrapping, and so we try to use that in aboard. And at the same time, beyond that, we would like to be able to convert this mass of discarded items, trash. And so this is something that we're working at trying to expand our use of recycled wrapping. Hello, Thomas. I'm Lian. I'm at the third year 5 at the college. I'd like to know, how do you see the change of climate aboard the space station? What changes have you noticed between 2017 or 2021? Well, thank you. It's a good question. Listen, in effect, I'd already noticed the negative consequences of climate change. I noticed in 2017 and again in 2021. I don't really see any improvements, but we conduct scientific experiments to enable us to take a scientific perspective of what the changes are so that we can have confidence in our conclusions, regardless of whether it's me or anyone else doing the work. But The frequency of tropical storms is something we've noticed. That's more often today than before. I really have the impression that there's a greater frequency of tornadoes and cyclones. From space, we can see a direct consequence of the forces at work. These are consequences on a climatic scale that unfortunately are very noticeable from space as well. Hello, my name is Amira from the Georges Sand College or High School in Toulouse. Can you tell us what you have been able to observe from the major forest fires this summer? What have you been able to observe in that regard? Listen, these were sad spectacles. You can see it, of course, clearly from the space station. And so we see a lot of white clouds. The clouds are never white. They're usually white, but in this case we see that they're brown and various other colors. And so we can very clearly see the difference between the smoke from fires and natural clouds. In Turkey and the Mediterranean, the United States, and France, and Corsica, California, Canada, it made a huge impression. There were surfaces that were being burned were immense in scope. It's like a cover of ashes or smoke which covers almost all of California, at least half of California. From land we can see a little bit, but from space you can clearly see the extent of the smoke of the cloud, which is brown and covers an entire region, and you can see it very clearly. And unfortunately, this is something we've been able to observe. Hello, Thomas. I'm Loïc from the François Mitterrand High School in Moissac. Can you see the great coral barrier from the space station? And if so, have you been able to notice changes from 2017? The Great Barrier Reef. Listen, we see it. It's part of the things that we can see from the space station in Australia, of course. It's something that we see. It looks like little circles. There's sort of clear blue. It's not like atolls, but it's fairly similar to the atolls. We can see it sufficiently. It's covered with, from Australia, I've been able to observe. When we pass over Australia, most of the time we can see it. Of course, at night we can't see it as well. But it's something that we don't do as often as, unfortunately. But we can take the measure, including scientific measurements and evaluations from above the satellite. We can conclude that this is something that gives us confidence in our observation. And I can add my vision of things. This is to add a guarantee of spatially determined scientific observations. And this is something that can be measured and seen, measured with specialized equipment, and which unfortunately gives us confidence in any deterioration. Hello, Thomas. This is Abdallah from Toulouse. Can you tell us about this experiment, if you please? Yes, Abdallah. This is an experiment which is very fascinating. It's microscopic scale, and which applies to everything, if you may say. It's from the exterior, outside of the ESS, from 200 to 250 degrees outside the space. But they were able to survive, and we don't know how they do it, but we try to observe how they do outside in that cold, how they're able to deploy capabilities to survive. It's incredible. But this adaptation to space is something that could be transmitted or to other organisms that could adapt. And this is something that we find that the over distances and in difficult conditions on Earth, this is what we're looking for on the microscopic and microbial scale to be able to then run our experiments. Hello, Thomas. I'm Anek. I'm in the second class, second year at the Renard School in Toulouse. You've been on the, let's see, the space station performing for 2 days. What does that consist of? Well, I'm not sure I understood the question. Excuse me. She had asked you, Abel to ask you. You've been running experiments aboard the space station for 2 days. What do they consist of? Well, thank you for the question. It's a little bit like being aboard when everything, you have to work with the interface with the people who work at the control center to be sure that I'm well, in good condition. I participate in the decisions of the exchange of information. It runs rather well. Sometimes there are major directives that are given, and we above the space station aboard it in a professional manner implement those. Sometimes there's only a general consensus to look to be sure that we are in agreement. This is within the framework of everything going well, but if there are problems like breakdowns or fires, this is as if we were aboard a boat. There's only one person who can make decisions then, because if things are complicated, we want to be sure that we don't have problems that stem from people being in disagreement, and so there's someone who has to make decisions. And we hope that we'll always be able to apply and make decisions that we hope that everything will always run well, but when they don't, we have to be sure that things can remain under control even under adverse conditions. Hello, Thomas. I'm Charles D. I'm in Cassavidi High School. I'd like to ask you, since you're no longer breathing earthly atmosphere, would you say that certain features are more dangerous for you? That's a very good question. Radiation doses are able to hit the space station, and of course we need protection against that. Since we no longer have the earthly atmosphere to protect us against space radiation, in the space station we're very high up, of course, and between 100 to 200 times the dose of radiation that we receive on land is what we receive on the space station. And there are people who monitor us, but you know, there are problems that will arise on the trip to Mars, a very long trip, and we will have radiation to contend with to be sure that the radiation levels are not too high. And so this is something we're trying to resolve in order to be able to travel to Mars. There are experiments that regard to how to measure radiation doses and how to protect us, the astronauts who, in general, who someday will be able to take longer space trips. Hello, Thomas. My name is Mohamed from the Georges Ton College, from the George Sand High School in Toulouse. You've made 3 extravehicular X's to be able to change ESS panels. What are the next upcoming operations that you are looking forward to? Well, listen, there are 4 in all. We have to put, there are 2 that I will be making. It's more complicated than we thought. Sometimes it can take the entire day outside the space station, the ESS. And then we had prepared, we added 2 additional solar panels, and then there are 4 other new ones installed by my colleagues outside the station. You know, there's always something to do. We replaced also the electrical panels that are in this part of the station. There's some cables that we have to change. We've had to change cameras. There are always things to do, and the upcoming operations will resemble somewhat what we've done, and they're continually adding solar panels that have to be installed, and we'll be using the systems that require a lot of cable installation, and so that is what we're looking forward to. Well, we've arrived at the end of the session, but I think we will not be able to complete this without thanking you again, Thomas. All of us here would like to thank you. We'd like to applaud you, to thank you for all these questions. Happy to see you again, and look forward to seeing you again on Earth, here at the space station in Toulouse. And we are anticipating great eagerness to see you again, to thank you once again for all of your kindness, for the time that you've spent with us. You'll be returning, perhaps have some operations to complete before you return. There are a lot of things. There are visitors that we have to deal with. My German colleague, for example. And it'll be a great pleasure to come back and see you in Toulouse once I return. Thanks again. Goodbye. I'll see you soon. Thanks to all of you. Thank you.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all participants from ESA at Toulouse. Merci tout le monde à Toulouse. Station, we're now resuming operational audio communications.